Hi everyone, welcome to our second day of the Internationalist Week. My name is Carolina Silva. I'm leader of NERI's event committee, and it's amazing to have you here again. And before we start, I will pass the speech to my colleague Rebecca. And today we have an amazing guest, Sophie Lunga and Christy Harono, and my colleague Juan Menezes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here, and I'm very happy to have with me Sophie Lunga and Christy. Sophie is from the United States, and Christy is from Indonesia. And today we'll be sharing a bit about different perspectives in the internationalist world. So they'll be sharing a little bit about their experience studying international relations in the countries, and we are very grateful that they are here. And I'll ask Sophie to introduce a little bit more about herself now.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophie. I live in the US. I live in Chicago right now. Previously I went to undergrad where I studied international studies, and now am a law student. I'm studying in the University of Kent Chicago Law in Chicago. My studied in undergrad with international relations focused more on like world governance and like cultures and contact, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Sophie. Now I'll ask Chrissy to introduce herself.
So, hey everyone, my name is Christy and I'm from Indonesia. I am currently 20 years old and I'm taking an international relations major in Parayan University. It's located in Bandung, which is like 3 hours away from the capital city of Indonesia, Jakarta. So, it's a pleasure for me to be here right now and I'm so excited about this event. Thank you.
Christy. Um, Now we'll be starting with some questions, and I would like to start with Christy. And basically, I ask you to talk a little bit about Indonesia itself, the country, because here in Brazil, not many people know much about Indonesia. So it would be nice if you give us a little bit of insight about it.
Okay, so hey everyone, it's me again. So Indonesia is, I would say, it's a very diverse country. Like some of you know, or if you don't know, that's fine. So we have six religions here, and it's like Christian, Catholic, Islam, and Buddha, Hindu, and Chauvinism. So, like you've known before, the majority of the religion is Islam, but it is not. I would say it's not like I mean like our majority is. I'm sorry. So our majority is Muslim. But like the people is mostly Muslim, but it's not like our law is like Muslim based, if you know what I mean. So, um, in this opportunity, I will talk more about how you can how you can know like how can Indonesia maintain our diversity and become and to change it into nationalism. So that's it.
Mm. That's interesting. You would fit well in Brazil. We have a huge diversity of not only in terms of race but also religion. Even though there is Christian, I mean Christianity is everywhere here, but we do have like here in Bahia, Salvador, Brazil, we have a strong African influence. So a lot of Ubanda and this type of culture is very, very present here. But switching up a bit, and I'm gonna ask you, Sophie, is of course we know all about the U.S. even though we don't live there, but in terms of international relations in the U.S., being a non-U.S. citizen, born there, um, how would you describe the experience studying international studies in a U.S. country?
Um, so I mean, most of my higher level learning has been in the U.S. So I would say that I can't really I'm not really sure how to compare it to others because I didn't study university in another country, except in Europe a little bit. But so I think in the US the focus is more on like, you know, how different other countries are. Like, and in my international studies class, we mostly looked at like different countries that are struggling and like what the United Nations are doing in order to help them. And but my international studies was mostly focused on like um, a sort of cultures instead of like politics. I know for political science, which is like another sector, I guess, of international relations, or it's kind of related to that. They focus more on like the arms race and like what's going on in the world politically, like in different countries, and instead of like focusing on like economics so much or like just like the cultural differences of what make other countries different. They like look at more like in their politics what it is that makes them different from the United States politics, like whether it's like a democracy or a monarchy, depending on what it is, like what country it is. And we look at a lot like the European Union and like our or the American like economy, where it's like we're mostly capitalists, whereas the European Union, most of them are socialists. So we look at that a lot too, and I feel like in that way our perspective is just like very much of like what are the differences, like, yeah, that's like mostly what we focus on. I don't know if that answers the question. I hope so.
No, it does. It does. That's interesting because in comparison to Brazil, we have a very big political part of the course all along because, well, we are in Brazil. Politics is a living part of us every single day. You know? But Chrissy, talking about your experience in Indonesia, how would you say it is compared to us over here? I mean, in Brazil, we have a lot of politics. We do a lot of international studies. We see other countries and how the political system works, and we have a little bit of social part, but not as per se as international studies, as Sophie just mentioned. So, Chrissy, in Indonesia, how is the balance between politics and social relations about international countries and all?
Oh, so I'm sorry. So the question was like how Indonesia would balance the politic and the economy and other aspect in international relations, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, how your experience in studying international relations is compared to what we just said about here in Brazil and about Sophie in the U.S.
Oh, so for me, the social importance of international relation is how we can manage a relationship despite the differences and opposite perspective we have, like within the state have, within the Indonesia has, or the Brazil have. Like it is how we could negotiate it and achieve for the same outcome. If that does answer the question, I'm sorry.
Yes, that answer seems more like a diplomatic view of Indonesia towards other countries. Um, come back to you, Sophie.
Mhm.
In the U.S., is there a perspective of the U.S. being the center of the relations, or when you compare to a country like China, how do professors they approach this in terms of the democracy is the foundation of a good country or something that is very it's very strong rooted in the U.S. politics or they view in a more pragmatic way. It's a different country, it's a different system, and we compete with them. So there's ways to approach them. There's ways to deal. How does this type of comparison happen? Being in the U.S. As the U.S. always viewed itself as the leader of the world in ways.
Oh, okay. I definitely think I feel like we definitely do recognize China's power. That's for sure. I remember, like, even in my classes, we talk about how much, how much of like an influence China has. Even though, yeah, America has been more powerful in the past or whatever, we like studying international relations even for undergrad. I remember we talk about how much just stronger China is, especially economically. They economically they're more powerful than us in our economics relations. They have the upper hand. And in our American studies, we do realize that. We do realize that we have more of a democracy. And in the US, we feel like the wealth is distributed a little bit more fairly than in China, but it's not a fair comparison because we don't really know. And China also has like a lot more people. So it's like, of course, there's going to be like huge differences. But otherwise, I definitely think that we do realize that China, despite their political stance, which I'm not sure is fully a democracy. Despite that, they're definitely like very powerful, especially economically. We understand that they produce more. I mean, we owe them a lot. We're like trillions in debt to them. So yeah, like we do realize that they're powerful and they are going really up there in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sophie, for your answer. And I would like to turn that question to Christy, because Indonesia is in Asia. So I would like to know, like, how does Indonesia um, feel related to China, and mostly about the Hong Kong political crisis that happened. So we know that China is part of the Asian tigers, and I would like to know how this crisis and other instabilities in other parts of Asia affect or impact Indonesia, and if Indonesia is sensible about these international events, specifically in China and other parts of Asia.
Okay, thank you for the question. So to begin with, in international diplomacy, Hong Kong is, I mean, like Hong Kong has no separate identity from mainland China. For example, Hong Kong has no independent representation in the United Nations Security Council, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, and etc. etc. Although Hong Kong and ASEAN signed a free trade treaty and other related investment agreement on 12 November 2017, and the Asian countries involved in the agreement is including Indonesia together with Hong Kong. This treaty aimed to increase market access for goods and services from Hong Kong, as well as to protect, promote, and facilitate Hong Kong investment, including Indonesia. So, in my point of view, we don't see it as a burden to Indonesia. I mean, like we don't see it as a thing in Indonesia. In fact, Indonesia is always, I could say like Indonesia always be the one who played safe. I mean, like what I mean by that is this is what I like about my country politically. So we do not obviously take anyone's sides. I mean, like in this context, it's between China and the United States. We do not take anyone's side, obviously. So Indonesia has enjoyed cooperation with China in various fields in recent years. In fact, in line with Jokowi's, our current president, ambition to build inter-island connectivity and infrastructure development. So Indonesia is right now currently a member of the Belt and Road Initiative by China, and we have an ambitious project initiated by China that aims to connect the Eurasian economy with infrastructure, trade, and investment. So I think China is still the second largest investor in Indonesia after Singapore. Like so, but yet we still maintain a good relationship with the USA. So to be concise, it does not directly impact Indonesia as we still have the USA to be our backup. Like I mean, so if anything would likely happen to China with Hong Kong, I mean, like we can ask the United States to back, well, I mean, like to back us up. And yes, our political system is bebas dan aktif, so which translate is to free and active. So it means like we're open to anything, like to any international event. So thank you. So that's it. That's the answer.
Well, I think that in that aspect, Indonesia is kind of similar to Brazil because we do have a strong partnership with China, but we also want to have good relations with the United States. So,
Yes,
um,
exactly. That's what I
yeah,
mean. Like that's what every country in the world does.
yeah, because I think is the thing is that we want to, of course, be in good terms with all countries, and that having this not taking sides is really good for the international, you know, um, atmosphere and how we can avoid conflicts. So I think that's very important. um, and I would also like to know, this I just brought up this question, but I would like to know, how does Indonesia maintain relationships with Korea, either South Korea and North Korea? How does Indonesia um, keep this relationship with them? Is it a good relationship, and is it more based on economy, or is it also political and cultural?
I think I would say it more likely in cultural aspects. So we all know
Mm,
that right now K-pop is really a thing, right? So in
yeah.
Indonesia, it it is really like a big fuss for here. Like we have like K-pop fan everywhere, and also we have like this strong like movie industry, like Korean movie industry going on around here, and I think that's a way like we maintain like undeliberate relationship with Korea. I guess it it necessarily increased their economy, but
Mhm.
it still like benefits us, I guess, because like we all get it. I would say like hold on. I would say like we all get benefited like to each other because they will get they will get the money from us, and we'll get ourselves entertained. Like, do you know do you know what I mean? Hope that answer your
Yeah,
question.
yeah. I think that most people with this Hallyu wave, which is the Korean wave, most people are getting more interested in China. I know that for me, um, I did get into Asia because of this. Korean movement, I started watching K dramas, and it made me also curious about all the cultures. So um, I think that most people nowadays are being more open to Asian culture in general, because of it. And I know that Indonesia is full of diversity because it has many islands and many people migrated there. And you also have this religious difference that you told us about, this plurality, right? And you have the Muslims, you have the Christians, you have the Buddhists. And I would like to know if there is like this national feeling, like how do people view themselves in Indonesia? Because being in such a plural country, what do you think that makes you guys feel like a nation? And also like the cultural aspects that all of these um, cultures brought together gave you guys, because here in Brazil, we are also a plural country, and we have African, and we have Portuguese and Spanish and German and many other nationalities brought together, and we are all mixed. I'm sure that most of the people here in Bahia, for example, in our state, most of us have like African and Portuguese mix. So we still have this Brazilian mindset, you know what I mean? And I would like to know how is it in Indonesia?
Okay, so well, from my perspective, first of all, there are a lot of points of view when it comes to the question of how Indonesians see Indonesia. Like some might see Indonesia as a country with many potentials, and there are also some who never get satisfied about the people itself or even the government. So I can say it's quite a like contradictive topic. Although the plurality we have here, we see it as a positive thing toward our nationalism. So this goes with Indonesian motto. It's called Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. So the meaning is literally like unity and diversity. So be sure to expect new things and encounter different characters in certain regions of Indonesia. It's what connects us. It's what identify us. I mean, like identifies our pluralities as Indonesian. So, for example, like I've mentioned before, we have officially recognized six religions: Islam, like Christian, Catholic, Buddhist, Buddha, Hindu, and Confucianism. Religion is like an essential part of Indonesian culture. So you will probably see a lot of religious practices and rituals everywhere because Indonesia has many spiritual communities. This is reflected by their daily routine. For example, when it comes to prayer time, all work is dropped to conduct prayer rituals. Religion also affects a lot of life aspects in this country, such as norms, values, law, ethics, and much more. Even Indonesian culture and tradition is highly intertwined with religion. So, I mean, like it's sometimes like a good thing with this diversity of religions, but can be also sometimes like um, creating a conflict. So to spill the tea, if I may mention this, so we used to have this case. So hold on. So, like all of the countries in this world do, the freedoms of speech are likely to be equally distributed within the people. Sometimes the majority and the powerful ones only get the right to talk, right? For example, so Ahok is the name of a person. So Ahok was the governor of Jakarta, our capital city. He is a Chinese Indonesian Christian, and Ahok was previously sentenced to 2 years in prison by a panel of judges at the North Jakarta District Court. He was found guilty of defaming religion, Islam specifically. Um, and he was like judged for violating Article 156A of the Criminal Code, because in his speech, he mentioned that people do not need to worry about the work program stopping, because at the time he will still be providing the needs of the people until like a certain time. He was saying basically like something to people: do not trust anybody, any mislead issues, including that one from Al-Ma'idah verse 51, which in the Al-Quran Islam verses. And like I mentioned before, he was a Christian Chinese Indonesian, so he was definitely like a minor here. And because of that, he got sentences. And but yet it is a whole different story if the majority who stated like if they can only like be imprisoned for like 1 until 6 months or even be free. So it's like it's not directly like built our nationalism, but it's also like can create conflict, which is not very nice. Like that's it.
Oh, thank you. That was a really good answer. And Sophie is actually born in Congo, and she went to the United States when she was little. So that's pretty cool. And I would like to know, like, how was it for you and your family moving to the United States? And you have been there for many years, so I would like to know if you do have this like American feeling, because I know like you are now an American citizen. So do you feel like it was easy for you to get along with people and get used to the American culture? Also, I know that the United States also has a very plural community, and it has a lot of Latinos and people from other countries too. So how do you see that there in the United States?
So like, I mean, with that, luckily, the fact that it's a plural country, it is, I feel like it was just easier in a way. It was easier being here, even though you were different, as in comparison to like going to a country where it's homogeneous, where it's like one race, like it was nice because it was like when we moved here, there's black people, there's Asians, there's Latinos, there's white people. So you didn't feel like you were just thrown in this country where you were the only one who was different. But obviously, culturally, it was different. Like when we came, we didn't speak English. Like I didn't speak English. We had to learn. So that was hard, and that was like definitely like a big difference and stuff. But as a child, I think it wasn't as bad. I got used to it very quickly. And the American lifestyle, I think, allows for that. Like it allows for assimilation. It's easier to do so because, the country's made up of different cultures and different people. So assimilating was easier for me and for us as children. Whereas I think for my parents, obviously, it was probably harder. And, it probably still is. My parents, even till today, they don't speak English very good. They like struggle very hard. Um, but yeah, so that was easy, and I feel like like Indonesia, or I'm sure anywhere really, when there's a lot of different people and different cultures, there's bound to be conflicts and just like there's bound to be like, the feeling of like, oh, I don't fit in, or like, I'm different or whatever, or because it depends on where you live. And like when we first moved here, we lived in a smaller city because obviously there's more diversity in bigger cities. And so when you live in a smaller city, you definitely like stand out more and you notice the difference. And that was a little hard, I guess. Yeah. But like I said, like the American lifestyle quickly kind of pushes you into like just assimilating. Like, people here work all the time, and to be able to like provide for your family or have anything, you have to be working like all the time. And so I feel like when we first moved here, like my parents, we just like started working all the time, which was like similar to everybody's parents. here, whether you were American or not. And then we were going to school. So in that way, I kind of like integrated it into the American culture just automatically, just by lifestyle. But again, like with culturally, it was still different because it was like not at all what we were raised with when, in our country when we were like little when we were born. It was still so different. And then there was obviously the language barrier. So that was like the big thing, which I feel like even today probably might be the thing. Like when I talk, sometimes I don't sound very American. So people are like, oh, where are you from? But other times, it just goes unnoticed or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I answered the question. I don't remember the question.
Yeah, you did. Thanks so much.
Being in the U.S., we always have this perspective of being a very, um, how can I put this, a country that embraces all cultures of any source, and it's the land of the free, right? So when in the coming years, I mean, last year we have the big, how do you say, the BLM manifestations on the streets and all. And in the upcoming years, we had several cases of um, um, either right wing extremists or some sort of Islam bad views in terms of the U.S. And politics. I mean, people that come from the Islam. We had terrorists and all and all. So there's a lot of how can I put this? There's a lot of a bad cloud hanging over certain types of minorities in the U.S. So being there, how does the U.S., I mean, your friends, your colleagues, how do they see these types of acts like the BLM or the Asian Lives Matters and on and on? How do people over there, I mean, everyday people, they see these types of reactions to the years of, constantly police brutality or any sort of discrimination towards their culture or any of the sort?
Well, I feel like in regards to, let's say, Black Lives Matter stuff, it seems like it's like forever ongoing problems that started centuries ago, obviously, when they brought the black people here. So that problem, it seems to me like it's like an issue that kind of just like surfaces every decade or every now and then. It's like it will happen, and like let's say when there was slavery here, that happened, and then they banned it. They were like, no, it's not good or whatever. So and for the time there was a moment of peace where they were like, no more slaves or whatever. But then in the 50s or 40s, they realized even though there was no slavery, there was still like huge discriminations. Like, landlords would not rent apartments or even sell houses to black people. They would like have restaurants and they're like, you can't come in if you're black, stuff like that. And then of course that started other riots at that time. And there was like another like big problem and all that and stuff like that. And like so, and I don't know, between then and now, I'm sure there was like a bunch of other stuff that happened too. And then now again, you see this where it's like with each decade, there's new problems of the same problem. It's like new situations of the same problem. So in this decade, it was that the police are discriminating in their violence towards black people than not and whatever. And you see this obviously in very like diverse areas, so like mostly big cities. Like for me, I grew up in Champaign, which is like 2 hours away from Chicago, which is like a huge city. In Champaign, we didn't really deal with a lot of that. You didn't see police brutality everywhere, whatever. But obviously, it happened a lot in like Chicago and like most of the southern states where they're very, it's known to be very, because those were the states that fought the civil wars in America to keep slaves. So the people who lived there are known to be very opinionated and very racist, even if you want to say it, but it just depends. I mean, but so it's like the new problems, it comes up because it's like there's new ways, apparently, other, as you said, like it's just like different groups are kind of, because they're minorities, just like she was saying with Indonesia, how the guy got arrested probably because he was a minority, whereas if he was part of the majority, probably wouldn't happen. Same thing here, where it's like these problems show up because it shows up in against the minorities because the majority groups are the ones oppressing the minorities. And it comes a time where it's just like too much that people see. It's like, okay, there's a time when someone does something wrong and the police kills them rightfully, but you see a lot of other instances where it's like you didn't have to use so much force to kill that person, because it's like you could have just talked to them or like took them to prison without having to kill them. So it's like stuff like that. And then same thing with like the whole Islamic thing. It's like, yes, there's terrorists, but that doesn't mean every Islamic person is a terrorist. It's like, obviously, like most of us, like me growing up here, I had a bunch of like, Muslim friends, and like you just know these people, they're also immigrants. They come here for a better life. They're not here to kill everyone else. No, they're just here to live their life, have more freedom, give their kids better opportunities. So it's like, it's again, it's the problem of just like xenophobia, with the new world. And it's like, I mean, I studied a lot of philosophy, or not a lot, just a few. But they say in Freud, one of his book is like civilizations and it's discontent. And I feel like it's just like the way of life. The more civilized we get, the more like problems we're bound to have, because new things does scare people, I guess. And when you're a majority in a country and you've led a good life all your life, and suddenly you see different people coming in and you see something going wrong, you're bound to like try to get rid of them, because apparently they're the problem, because before they show up it wasn't there, and now they're there and you see this problem. So your solution is to attack the people and try your best to get rid of them. And it's just like old problems in new situations. I feel like in they're just like resurfacing problems from like forever ago, and they're just forever. I mean, I don't want to say they're gonna be here forever, because that's not good and you don't want them to be here forever, but I don't know if it's done, and I wouldn't say it's done, it's over. I don't think much really changed. It's just like we've learned something new, but we'll see. I don't know. yeah.
Totally. You mentioned in your remarks about um, landlords and living there and all. With the COVID crisis, I've been reading all about how landlords in some major cities are increasing the rent and all of that. So coming to COVID and this whole situation that we're living for, I don't know, 2 years now, um, how was in the beginning and how is it now? Is this really true? Are landlords just upping the rent for 56% because 60% because during the COVID crisis they lowered the prices to receive students that were short of money, of course. And there was the stimulus check and all and all. How did the everyday situation was during the crisis, and how is it now that people are getting back to work, vaccines are everywhere, and we have this urge, to come back to the workplace and start working again. And there's there has been conflict with the government. I have read about the government trying, I mean, the Biden administration is trying to get people back to work because they're living off insurance. I mean, in fire and all. So how is it this situation right now in the U.S.?
Well, so there is still like a big work shortage. Like I know I was like living in LA previously, like recently, and like public transportation, they were in shortage of like bus drivers, because when the pandemic hit and a lot of people stopped working, a lot of people went on unemployment, which is like the government kind of provides a paycheck for you because you were put out of work or whatever. And also, if you are a person whose health is not very great. So you're in more risk of contracting the disease or the COVID or whatever if you're outside or if you go work. Like, so the government will allow you to not work, or if you live with like an elderly person and you don't want to go out to work and then bring it out to them. So most people still don't want to go to work using those excuses as like, oh, I can't work because I live with an elderly person, or I have a weak immune system or whatever. And so there's work shortage. Like, there were no bus drivers, and it would be like one bus every 2 hours, which is insane if you're trying to get to work and you missed the first bus. It should be like a new bus in like 30 minutes or something, but it won't show up for like a long time. So definitely there's still work shortage. There's a lot of people not wanting to work, but some people are working online. Some people have going back to the work financial places, and that's where it comes to like the whole rent stuff. Like, a lot of financial buildings, they realize now that they don't have to pay for offices, and people can work from home, which saves money on rent. And so the owners of the building are not making money. And I don't know, for individual people, I feel like that one might be the same. Like, for me with the school, I got an apartment in Chicago, and I feel like, or I'm renting a room with a bunch of roommates. But I feel like that one is still the same because they know with students we're always gonna, come around. But for like just normal people, I know when the pandemic first started, they were lower because first when it first started, there was like you didn't have to pay rent because people weren't working and they were figuring out situation like what to do about that. And when people started getting the unemployment and like the stimulus check, I heard that some places would decrease rent because most people moved home since they were working online. They moved to go live with their parents and stuff. But then some people, because of that, the buildings are have less people, so the landlords need to make money. So they also increase their rent because they're like, well, how are we going to make money when there's less people? The rent has to be more. So you definitely do see where it's just like kind of chaotic. It's like you don't really know because it's like it should definitely decrease because not many people are working, and there's certain industries that have gone, have shut down because the whole situation with COVID just doesn't allow for it to exist anymore. But then it's like, well, even landlord need to make money too because for them that's their living, that's how they make money. So that's why they're increasing rent. But it's like, why are you increasing rent when people are out of work? So it's just chaotic, and it's really interesting. But I feel like I mean, I don't want to just say like I feel like people are doing well because I don't know everywhere. There's so many people in this country, and you don't know everybody's situations. And what I see is not the reality of everyone. I'm very like I'm a student. I'm mostly like in school studying, or I'm around other students. We're not living the life of like maybe a single mom with kids and looking for rent. So I feel like I can't really say how it really is, but it's definitely like different depending on where you are and like just what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's very, very interesting. Chrissy, I've been reading about Indonesia and the COVID situation, and there's been a constantly rise in not only people infected but also in deaths per day. And I see that China has donated vaccines. You guys have surpassed, I think, the 100 million mark in terms of vaccine doses. So right now, I mean, you said you were in Bali yesterday. So how is it, the restrictions in your country right now? The people can be in indoor spaces. The use of mask is always required. How is it the situation and in financial aspect as well?
So currently Indonesia is actually in lockdown, but the government then eases the restriction lately. It's because like remembering our country is poor and we still need to make a living, and so the government lately been eases the restrictions. So we're in a lockdown in level 4 because our COVID has increases um, in July, I think it's between July and August, our COVID cases been increases very rapidly. But right now, it's getting like low. The cases is getting lower as our people have been taking vaccination, and those who can go outside of the city are those who already get vaccinated twice and get tested for negative for COVID. I mean, so I think like the government right now is trying their best to do whatever like the regulation. I mean, like to balance the regulation between the health of their people and the economy of the country. So actually, if I may mention, there actually like been like have been like a lot of riot happening. It's because like the poor people here demand for like for the lockdown to be over, like to be stopped. It's because like they can barely eat, they can barely make a living for their families, and it was actually very crazy because um, the government did donate some money for them, but then there were corruption. There were really corruption of the money. Like we don't really know where the money goes. We don't really know whether they have received our helps or anything. But then the government tried to make. I mean, the government trying to make a corrective action out of it. So they were trying to make everything better by like giving the real helps, like I mean like make sure everyone gets everything like evenly. So right now I think like the COVID and everything, the the activities here has been very like um getting better, I guess, with the COVID and everything. I think you still mute. You still muted,
You're
Mark.
muted. Yeah.
Sorry.
It always happens.
Totally
uh,
fine.
in the U.S., we have the Build Back Better agenda. I mean, it's a plan to increase jobs, cut taxes, but it's a plan for the post-COVID as well. In some other countries, like in the European Union, you have these types of agenda to create more jobs and to um, see what the next year in 2022 will be about in terms of producing in the country because everyone took a hit with COVID. So right now, we need to get back on our feet. Indonesia, is there any type of plan of that ambition level? I mean, to create more jobs, to provide, to create opportunity in that sense.
Yes, I think right now I can say that we have a strong leadership. Like strong leadership gives an aim to Indonesian people. Like our people really have to remember that we are far away left behind. I mean, like compared to the U.S., compared to your country, Indonesia is really way more, like way further than you guys, and we still have we have the need, like I mean like, we still have many things to catch, and instead of arguing with each other like about like which religion is right, like I mean like with diversity and everything, right now I think our focus is to like focus more on technology and brings improvement in the country itself, like be the next. I mean, like we right now currently find a cure for AIDS and cancer and make a journey to Mars or whatever that is and support electric car and have an environmental friendly development. And beside, if you guys know, we have this like startup company that is growing rapidly and increase our profit and economy, and it's called Gojek. So Gojek is basically like a transportation. It's like an Uber, but we have the motorcycle version and we have the car version. So I think like that would create a job us. That creates more job opportunity. That also creates our that also like um, build. I mean like build our willing to be in more innovative about this job opportunity and to create more job opportunity. I mean like this need to be done. We actually have the strong willing that we need to get this done. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Chrissy. I think that in Brazil also has that same thing Indonesia had with the COVID situation, because there was a conflict here, because some people, the poorer people wanted to work, but we had restrictions. And then when we would open the stores and everything, there would be a huge amount of people infected. So now I think that we are getting better because, you know, somehow the local government has managed to, vaccinate and everything. And here we have the problem of, well, Sophie mentioned that in the United States, the problem is that people don't want to go to work because they receive this maintenance from the government. And here is like different in the aspect that people do want to work, but we don't have that space, right? And many people right now are struggling with that, and they are finding ways to reinvent themselves. So a lot of people have started like little business and have started like selling something or making food to sell and everything. And Brazil's economy is very based on exportation and importation. And I would like to ask Christy if because you mentioned that you Indonesia focuses a lot on the technology stuff. So I would like to ask, like, is that the focus of the government right now to invest in more technology? And also that also makes me curious about um, universities in general. Like, what are the most common courses that people take there? Because you study international relations, so here in Brazil, not many people used to know about it, and people still, when you say you study international relations, people still ask you like, what is that? So does that happen to you there in Indonesia? And what is the focus right now there for the economy?
Okay, so actually, I would not say that technology is our main focus. I think it will be on the second or third. I think our more focus right now is on the tourism aspect. So, as you guys know, like we have a lot of these touristic places, like so many beautiful places in Indonesia, and right now it's like all of them are dead because of the COVID thingy, because the restriction that we are not allowed to welcome an outsider and even the locals. And even if the fact, when I was in Bali yesterday, it was really, really quiet. Like Bali is like a dead city. I mean, like it used to be so crowded with so many tourists, like foreigners from the Europe, from the United States, and everything. But when I got there, it really it really like full of the locals, and even like it's so many locals in there, and everywhere are closed. It's because of the lockdown. And as you guys know, Bali is one of the city that provide a good profit of economy because of their tourism, like, right? Because of like their their um I'm sorry, like their like it's like our economy. Like I can say that our economy is kind of depend on Bali touristic aspect. And I think like what our government is trying to um, be more focused about is right now, like to waking up our tourism, and to like make our economy better because of our tourism aspect. And um, the second part is I would answer about. I'm sorry, Rebecca. What was the second question again? I get so nervous and
Oh,
I.
don't worry. It was like because here not many people used to know what
Oh,
is
okay.
international relations. So what, like, if people, when you say you study international relations, what do people say? And also, like, what do people study more there? Because here for sure, a lot of people want to do like medicine and
Yes.
law, and I would like to know how is it in Indonesia.
So I would say that international relation is a pretty common major that if you answer people like, oh, I'm majoring in international relations, and they would know, but they would just like know, oh, that's it, you're going to be ambassador, like a country ambassador. Oh, that's it, you're going to be a diplomat, which is like, no, not like that at all. I mean, like, they will not like me to take international relations major. I mean, like, compared to business major or the tourism major. I mean, like, I would say international relation is in the third option or in the fourth option, because like they will be thinking, because our prospect of job after we graduate. I mean, like, what will we be? I mean, like, what job will we work to? And it's very hard to get it. It's actually pretty hard to get a job here, unless you graduated for like a business major or something. I think it's a bit hard to find a job here. So Indonesian people really play it safe. So they would like they know what international relations major is, but I think like they they will prefer to take business class. I mean like business major. So yeah, I think that's it. I think it's pretty the same thing in everywhere in every
Yeah.
country. Even if my mother, when I told her that I will be taking international relation major, uh, she'll be like, why? Why do you wish to be a diplomat or something? And I said no, it's because like I like the subject.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's way more than a diplomat itself. Like, you can be anything.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like
Yeah.
not right now.
Exactly.
I mean, like I mean, like, who knows that I will be coming to your country and work in a company of your country? Like, who knows that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Here in Brazil is the same. Like my mom also, when I told her I wanted to study, oh my God, you're gonna be an ambassador, and she still wants me to be one, and I still don't know if I want to be one. So sorry for that, mom. But Sophie, is it the same for you there? Because I know that the United States, of course, is has the United Nations and everything, so people know more about this international world. So is it more common there to study that, and what do people usually think when you say you study international relations? You are
So we
muted, your microphone.
oh, it was done.
But yeah, it's common. It's common because there's a lot of universities, so it more depends on where you're studying, where you are in the country. I feel like there's universities that are known for certain things. So if your university is known for political stuff, it's like more focused on like politics instead of like science or math. It's very common if you say like I'm studying international relations, people like understand. Of course, they probably think you're gonna be a diplomat or work for United Nations or something, which is like, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty common. It's not strange. I feel like here, you know, like you said, it's not one thing. International relations is not just a diplomat or United Nations. It could be anything. So usually when people say that, like I know when people I would say that, people would ask me, "Oh, are you gonna do politics or like what?" So it's like you can go into politics if you like, and If you want, you could go to United Nations, which is a different type of politics. It's not included in the American politics, but that's something else. And we have because I know like for most other countries, you guys like study one thing at a time, or like if you were going to study law or something, you would go to law school right after high school. But us, you always have to go to undergrad first and then do grad school. So most people who actually do study international relations here always go like get some kind of masters. Some people do stop, but most people who actually do stuff with it, they go to get a further master's. Like for me, I'm going into law. But some people would just like go into a master that's more focusing on like politics or diplomacy. So it's common in its own way, I feel like, but like at the same time, it's maybe not. Like it just depends, really. I don't know. Was that all of the questions? I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. Also, one last question for Sophie. So you mentioned that um, there's not many people working right now. There, people are getting back to their routines, but some people are not working. Do you think that the U.S. will open more to receive immigrants there because of that? Because we also have the example of what's happening in the UK, right, with the lack of workers there. And do you think that will change a little bit of the um, external relationship of the United States with other people from other countries?
Well, it's actually strange because I feel like, I mean, I don't know the statistics, but I feel like US was more open to receiving immigrants before the crisis or before the pandemic. Because I feel like now they're just worried about like bringing in people who have the disease or whatever. They're restricting traveling like crazy. But yeah, it's like, and the whole problem of workers not going back to work, it's mostly like the manual workers, like the lower paying job. Because for most lower paying jobs, the amount of money they made working was less than they made when they stopped working and they were getting unemployment from the government. So I mean, obviously most people will be like, if I'm getting more money doing nothing, why would I go to work where it's like a lot of labor work and you're getting less? So I think that's why, which I think may be solved once like this whole thing is completely over and the government stops giving money for the COVID crisis. I think once they stop doing that, then people are going to be more incentivized to go back to work. Otherwise, it's going to continue. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to make, our foreign policy be more open to receiving immigrant. I don't think that problem will be solved that way, because it will be like, we're already short on labor. Why are you adding more people? I mean, I guess maybe they'll work, but then it's like all the other people who aren't working will then just be hanging around without doing anything. So I feel like, in my opinion, we should solve this problem first before we open so much. But I feel like once the whole pandemic thing is over, it's all gonna like work out in its own way, where it's like people are probably gonna be more incentivized to go back to work, and then we'll go back to accepting, like US will go back to accepting more immigrants, because I feel like they always accept more. Like that's been how it's been going. Like, I mean, as an immigrant, I know that because like I know like my parents talk about it all the time with like their friends. So yeah, I think so.
We would like to thank you to Sophie and Christy for being here. It was so special. You both are so sweet and you inspire us with your history, being international relations students too. So we would like to, if you could leave a message for us and for everyone who's watching you, what would you like to say?
Christy?
Sophie, maybe you can start. Maybe you can start.
Okay. What would I like to say? Nothing really. Just like international relations is great. I think I love traveling. I love going to different countries. I think it's really important to know about different countries politically, economically, culturally. That's all very important. I I think, I mean, I have no place to say this, but I want to say I think all countries should keep in good relations with each other. But I am not a political person. I'm not one who makes those decisions, so whatever. But yeah, like, and it's not. I know you guys were talking about your countries, or it's like we have good relations with China, but you want to keep good relations with America. It's not us against them. At least that's from what I understand. We're not like against China or anything. It's just like we're friends. Okay, I don't know. I shouldn't be saying that. But yeah, it's I think international relations really fun and it's really important and yeah, teaches us a lot about each other.
Mhm.
Wow, good speech, Sophie. Now, I also want to thank you guys. Like, it is such a great pleasure to be invited here. I mean, like, I don't even know if I was like helpful enough of the questions. I mean, like, believe me, I I googled all of the answer. Like, believe I googled things about my own country. Like, all these 20 years of living, I still don't know about my country.
Don't worry, you did fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, I hope so. But the thing about international relations is like, do not like set your, I mean, like, do not have the mindset that if you like eventually graduate from the international relations major that you will only be a diplomat, you'll only be like a country ambassador. No, there are way more than that. I mean, like, in my university, so it's basically like the um, the major itself. Like, we divide it into like sub major. First is like a security. Second is like an economy, and the third is like an international organization, and the fourth is like the media. So if you like to write something, like if you like to write paper, you can work in the media, like in your country, like in a TV or something, or a newspaper or something. You can work in that. But if you like to talk, like to socialize in organization, that you can go to some international organization like Sylvie mentioned before, like the Indonesians or something. Or if you do not want to be like legally bonded with the organization itself, you can go to non-organization, like, I mean, non-governmental organizations such as like Greenpeace or something like find whatever that makes you. I mean, like, find what you love. Like, for example, I really love talking about environment, like something about environmental friendly or something. And I'm planning to work in Greenpeace. And I mean, like, if you love something, you can go search, look up for organization that suits you. And if you like talking about economy, you can go as a, I don't know, like an accountant or something. I mean, like an international accountant or something. And if you like something about security or something, you can be like um weapon, like a weapon supplier or something, like in a country, like with the country. I know there are way more than that. Believe me, like there are way more greater aspect if you learn about international relations. Like, don't set your mind to like, oh, I will be only like diplomat or no. So whatever that is, you are what you choose. So good luck.
Thank you, girls. Rebecca, Juan, would you like to say something?
Ladies first.
First.
My mic was muted again. So I would just like to thank Sophie and Chrissy for participating with us. I think that it was very nice to see both perspectives, and it was really interesting. And I I'm glad I got to hear a little bit more about Indonesia, and I'll make sure to go visit you someday, Christy and Sophie. So
For
it
sure,
was
come
very
here.
nice to see you guys.
As for me, I just want to thank both of you for participating. I mean, it's my first experience with um, students, undergraduate from international relations and studies. I've only met professors, so it's a bit different. So just thank you both for coming here and talking with us about your countries and experiences. It's very interesting to see different perspectives. Sometimes, I mean, you're studying all about countries and cultures and stuff and political aspects, and we don't get the one-to-one, talk. So it's refreshing to have this kind of event. So hope we can do more or even talk in private after this. So thank you, girls, and that's it.
Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you girls soon.
Thank you for having us. It was
Thank
nice.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.